for a few years now. It's all about making the local area, Leicestershire, more understanding and more welcoming to asylum seekers and refugees. So we do a lot of work in schools. We talk to lots of people and help them understand the situation that asylum seekers are facing. And we also run various projects. So if anybody hasn't heard of us, wants to find out more, talk to myself or Carmel or other people in the room later on. And if anybody wants to get involved as volunteers, we're always looking for more volunteers. So a bit of a plug as well.
Hi, my name is Carmel O'Regan. I'm also from Leicester City of Sanctuary. I think Jill has said everything.
Hi, my name is Mo. I'm a development worker for Refugee Action, and basically I work with asylum seekers, refugees, and refugee community organisation. And I've been working very closely with last year with the Leicester Drop-In Centre.
My name is Pardon Tafumane. I'm from Barclay Solicitors. We deal with a lot of asylum cases and immigration cases. We're based in Birmingham, and we're just here to hear what Philip is saying about Zimbabwe to assist our cases for asylum.
Hello, I've introduced myself already, but I'll do it again. So I'm senior from LAS, so this is where we are, LAS. We work with people who are living with or affected by HIV, so that's one of the roles that we have. And we provide training and awareness raising about HIV. And we're actually training people to be community testers because we have a rapid HIV test kit, which we've been using for about the last 18 months. And we're training people in different communities, and quite a lot of your community are training to be testers so that we can take it out into our communities, take it home when we can go home, so that people can know their status, because now it's much better to know if we get HIV, we don't get AIDS. Okay, so it isn't HIV AIDS anymore, it's HIV, know your status, and then move on from there. So we've got lots of information out the back, and if people want to learn how to become a tester so they can pass that on to people they know, then talk to us afterwards, okay?
Hello, my name is Myron Hines from Gaps Number 2. I manage the foot and support service for refugees, and that's from the onset when you get a decision right through to integration and towards independent living here in Leicester. So from getting a decision, positive decision, right through to claiming benefits, housing, just purely housing related support to enable you to live independently without going into crisis.
Thank you, everybody. When you're asking questions, it's possible if you say your name and where you come from so that we know who you are. So it's time for your questions to Philip. But please mention your name and the organization you are coming from. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Pelagia. Maybe we need a song to some of becoming a bit emotional, some are a bit worried now. We need to quench that so that if you ask Philip the questions, we are more relaxed and in the same mode. Anybody give us a chorus to sing?
Well done, well done, well done, well done, well done.
Thank you very much. Maybe Marriott, your seat, you reserve your seat up front here. Mr. Mario. We're going to reserve a seat for Mario from page 22 here. Yeah, there is seat up front here. Your seat was here. Anybody to start with on the questions? It's time for the questions now, and Philip will check up your questions. Yeah.
Can I ask a question? I'm Duncan Campbell, a Dominican priest from Holy Cross. In Eastern Europe, there was terrible tyranny. And one way the people began to get rid of it was they began to assemble in churches. A lot of people in Eastern Europe who never went to church suddenly started going to church. And they gained an awful lot of confidence and a lot of ability to start turning things over, like in Poland, of course, you know, with the shipyard and Gdansk and so on. Is there anything possible like that could happen in Zimbabwe with the churches?
Want me to say that one?
Yeah.
Okay. Very quickly, so, I mean, there are two main different. I mean, one is in Poland. I mean, I spent 3 years in Poland, so I know that terrain quite well. In Poland, there was a very large cohort of very militant anti-communist priests who led things with great authority. And even when some of them were killed, because the communists shot some of them, but even so, they carried on going and had a tremendous moral authority and also a singularity of purpose. They knew exactly what they wanted to do, get rid of communism. I think there are two things about Zimbabwe. I mean, one is in Zimbabwe, the regime is less afraid to violate churches than they were in Poland. And we've seen terrible instances of churches being violated in Harare, church services being attacked. I mean, we all remember the setup of Archbishop Nube in Bulawayo. I mean, there's been a fairly consistent attack on the clergy and on church-going people. And also, of course, Mugabe has set up his own parallel clergy. He's created a lot of Anglican clergy who are loyal to him, people he rewards with patronage and so forth. So the church hasn't been able to exert the same moral leadership in Zimbabwe. Yeah. But it's possible, and it would be good, but not yet.
Remember to just, are we all hearing at the back there? Are you all hearing? Yes. I will ask you to put a bit of volume. Even those who are asking questions, maybe if you can put a bit of energy in there so that everyone will hear the questions. Any other question? Yes.
My name is Marian Rowe from the Zimbabwean Association. I really understand what you were saying in your book and what you have experienced. My question is, do you think right now, especially asylum seekers, if we go home, we are going to be safe? Because sometimes the Home Office will tell us that, oh, well, there are thousands and thousands of pictures and things like that, so they won't even look about it. But as far as I know, Robert Barclay is very good at that, tracing things and finding out things because of his people there. And there are some of them, they are our neighbors who knew that this woman hasn't been here for years. And they know obvious that if you are not there for years, you are an asylum seeker, and we are the very people that are talking a lot about Zimbabwe. Do you think I will be safe to go there like now?
Good question, important question. I mean, in terms of the sophistication of the intelligence machinery and how he targets people and what he knows about it, I don't know. He never told me, I'm afraid. I'm not really too sure. But what I will say is this, and this is the serious answer to your question. As you can tell, in 2008, there was violence against people within the MDC and within civil society, very carefully targeted and picked because they belonged to those parties. But there was also a much more indiscriminate violence across large areas. I mean, whole provinces were attacked. I mean, I saw Manicaland, Mashvingo, parts of Mashonaland, really affected by a blanket violence. Whole communities beaten, regardless of who voted which way. I mean, they couldn't possibly have known who voted which way. Whole communities targeted. Large numbers of houses burnt down, collective beatings, and people fleeing from their homes. I mean, really terrible scenes in a Zimbabwean context. Now, that happened in 2008. And as we know at the moment, there's a window of stability, although some of us perhaps prefer to call it an illusion of stability. But there is a window of stability at the moment. And my friends tell me, you know, life at the moment is not too bad. You know, there isn't massive political violence, although there are little signs of it. And there are things in the shops and so forth. But what I'm afraid of is this. We're talking about elections in 2011, right? Now, what's changed between 2008 and 2011? Nothing's changed. Nothing has changed. I mean, the motivation of those old men to stay in power is just as fierce as it's ever been. They know they're unpopular, they want to stay in power, and they have the capability to use violence to make sure they win the election again. So what do we learn from history? They're going to do it. I mean, I tell you, as sure as a train ploughing towards the buffers is going to hit them, you know, this is a train crash just about to happen. In 2011, if the elections happen, they will be violent, and in 3 years' time, you'll have some guy standing up like me with his book, Zimbabwe 2011, Years of Hope and Despair, telling you the terrible stories about what happened in 2011. That is what's going to happen.
Another question?
Yes. I'm William Kandago from ZA. We heard those sad stories of 2008. You being a senior government official.
Senior, ha ha ha. That's a good one.
You being a government official, can I ask you, what would you recommend to the government today? Because there are so many people around here who are being said it's time for you to go back. Whereas, like she said earlier on, she doesn't feel comfortable. Yeah. But the government is saying, you're not on, you're right to go back home. What would you recommend to the government?
It's a very good question. I mean, again, just as Mr. Mugabe hasn't told me about his intelligence, but Mr. Cameron hasn't yet called and asked my opinion about what he should be doing with Zimbabwe. But if Mr. Cameron did, then what I would say to him is, you know, all I can say is what I know. I mean, I was there for 3.5 years, and I've described exactly how it was. And you know, if you can really imagine that that's a country fit to live in, then I think you have a fairly active imagination. You know, that's really all I can say. It's very kind of you to call me a senior government official. that's wonderful. That's wonderful. I was just as flattered because my publisher's website calls me a young person, which I think is great. It's many years since I thought of myself as young. So I'm, you know.
Was it once you were representing Britain? That's why we said you're a government official.
Well, yes, it was true. I was once a government official, but the idea I was a senior government official is great.
That's a good promotion for Phil.
My name is Andrew Boy. I present the Christians Aware. I came from Zimbabwe in 2007. I know what he had been talking about. I was already experiencing it. And I find what is happening in Zimbabwe is what happened in Congo, in Burundi.
Maybe you can speak up for the people in the back to hear.
Many places suffered the same problem. But the international community went in by sending the United Nations forces to try and bring in peace in that particular country. What are they thinking about Zimbabwe about this? Because as you say, there is already going to be problems in 2011.
Yeah.
What is the international community doing? Because when Tsvangirai came into power, he had no army of himself. And Mugabe had politicized all the security forces for himself.
Absolutely.
Now, what is going to happen? Basically, Tsvangirai can take up arms against Mugabe. What is the international community going to do about it?
Good question. I mean, there are two. I'd like to offer a comment first and then try and answer your question. I mean, first of all, people often say, you know, oh, what happened in Zimbabwe, it must be similar to what happened in Congo or something like that. No, there's a huge difference. There is a huge difference. I mean, when has Congo ever known a first world education system? When has it ever had excellent infrastructure? When has it had roads and electricity cables and railway lines and shops and industries and businesses and schools and a healthcare system and water treatment? Never. It's never had any of those things. But in Zimbabwe, what you had was a first world country. A country of the highest standards, which has been pushed down. I mean, Congo, I think we all feel sympathy for the situation in that country, but we recognise that actually in Congo, things have never got above a certain basic level. But in Zimbabwe, think, you know, 12 years ago, things were of the highest standard, and they've collapsed. And that's what's for me the really painful